Hey guys, welcome to a new Dear World of Tanks developer video. Today's video is actually kind of an interesting one because I was going to do a new one on a map, and in this case I was going to do it on Lakeville. And I decided to hold off because I had, a busy past few days, and so I was like, okay, well I'll just do it this weekend. But then Jingles releases these videos on his meetings in Cyprus with Wargaming, and what came up in the third video is they were talking about Lakeville, and I was like, wow, this is great. So I'm glad I held off because now I can include some of the things that were discussed there. And after watching those videos, it's actually really heartening because Slava, who they were talking to, that dude gets it. That dude gets it. I mean, everything he was saying, I was like, yeah, that's on point. That's how we feel. And specifically on Lakeville, so I'm going to bring that into this video. Now, I don't know whether Slava is directly responsible for map design. I don't really entirely sure what he specifically deals with, or whether it's more of an overall general thing. Either way, I'll just address it to Dear Wamat, the developer, and we'll go from there, but I'll incorporate some of these points that were brought up in the video itself. Dear World of Tanks map developer, today I want to talk to you about Lakeville. Now, Lakeville isn't a map even I'm used to hearing much complaints about. Not about the map in general, that is. Specifically, people complaining about why on earth do people still push Valley. You hear that, but the map itself, you don't really hear that many qualms with it. And I actually think it gets away with a lot. I don't think it's a great map. So I'm going to basically outline why I have some issues with this map, and, as would be fair, I will discuss some improvements to the map and what can be changed that will help more fluid gameplay and make it more fun for everybody and every kind of tank. So in the meeting with Slava in Jingles' video, Slava talks about how if you're a mouse and you try to cross into the city from either side, you get lit by some light tank or even a medium tank and have a high probability of taking a lot of damage if not being destroyed. And I completely agree with him. And not just a mouse, it's a lot of tanks. There's a high level of vulnerability, which basically immediately punishes you if you're below a certain speed cap from getting to a very important area of the map. And this is something that I think should be addressed, because it's not fair that you should be instantly lit up and have no safe option. Fair enough, if you're taking a really lazy way through, a really quick route through that is lazy, you maybe should be punished for it, but it's the only way into the town, and the middle just destroys you, not to mention obviously artillery and other things like that as well. Another thing I want to point out, and this seems to be a really common theme across a lot of maps, is 29% of Lakeville is basically unplayable area. That means it's either a mountain or a lake where your tank can't utilize. So that's a third of the map almost that you just can't play on. And I'm not saying remove the lake or anything like that, but I think it could be worked so that there is more cover and things like that, and some of the mountains lowered so that they could be traversed in some cases, or at least some paths made through, just to make it a little bit more interesting, specifically in the valley area itself. And this would help with your ability to flank and maneuver around the map. So obviously I need to talk about the valley because it's the thing that's talked about the most, and for good reason. The valley is basically unusable. The terrain in there slows you down infinitely. It's worse obviously the slower your tank is, and it just funnels you through one single path where if you crest, you're basically allowing yourself to be completely vulnerable to TDs and artillery. It's very difficult to push it successfully because it's just literally that one path. So, like I sort of alluded to earlier with the allowing more paths through the mountains and things like that, if you let more paths through the valley, it might help that as well. But I'll talk about the fixes to that later. So this is something people don't think about a lot, but the town actually isn't that great of a flank. It's incredibly vulnerable, and the only reason we use it is because it's better than the valley. And you know, the staple for a map when you're picking which flank you're gonna go shouldn't be like, what's the lesser of two evils? It should be, which one suits my tank better? Which one do I feel like playing? What kind of gameplay do I want? But unfortunately on Lakeville, it's just you have to go town, unless you know you're a certain type of tank that wants to sit in the middle line. You have to go town, and town isn't that great. A lot of the aggression in town is actually very easily punished, and that's by base camping tank destroyers that are sat by the middle lane by their bases, and they just sit there, wait till those avenues open, and you instantly die. Now, unless you're not getting lit, which is because there are no enemies in the town from either side, you know, you're going to get shot by a TD if you're not ultra careful. And even the pushing areas, they're not really that comfortable to push across. I think it should be in far more cover than it is. But it's too vulnerable to artillery and TDs, and that's just not good. The last thing you want when playing any game, and Slava alluded to it in talking about the JP100 and another one of those video segments, is you don't want to lose over half your hit points for pushing something. So, you know, that's an issue with the town. To bring up a final point in terms of percentage of map usage, the area where you fight in town is actually only about 11% of the map, and the little area in the valley where you're funneled to force fight in, where people pop over the hill, that's only about 2% of the map, which is a grand total of 13% of the map. If you're wondering how I'm getting these rough estimates, all I did was divide the grid squares. There's 100 grid squares, so you can just look on the mini-map and do it that way, and if it's, you know, only partial, then I took either half or something around that to add it all up. But yeah, the town is roughly about 11 grid squares that is actually usable fighting area, which I think is just too small for any map. I think there should be tons of options and tons of routes and things you could take to add more dynamic gameplay to the map. So those are some of the issues I have with the map, some of the problems that come out in gameplay, and obviously it's only fair that I talk about the solutions that I have. So with the valley, I think it has to be expanded in terms of, you know, your pass through the valley. I think, you know, one line is not good enough, even if it wasn't slowed down. It's just not good. You need multiple options. Choice is better. Different sort of elevations and terrain, and you can just do more passes through the mountain and other things like that would allow some creativity through the valley. Obviously, it goes without saying, but you need to get rid of the swamp and the marsh that slows you down through there. It's not good. So you know, if you're thinking if you slow it down, you know, you can so much more easily get to the base and things like that. I will address that issue as well. So the other thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see the elevation of the town raised. This is to match the level of the current base. So as you know, when you go into the town, you go downhill into the town. It's a flat elevation area. Now tactically, being on the low ground is not ideal. You want to be at least on level ground or on high ground, really, to have a tactical advantage. So I think the town could do with just being raised up some more. Obviously, you can raise up the lake and everything. This would just allow a little bit easy and more comfort when going through the city if you're not going to add more cover through the middle, which I think you should. I think it should be, the building should be changed slightly angled-wise. Make it a lot harder for TDs to just sit in one position the entire game and wreck someone after waiting patiently for 4 minutes. You know, it's just not a good plan if they're allowed to do that. So, you know, but at least if you raise the elevation, you know, people have more of a chance. It's not so difficult to leave the city and then come back to push the bases or return to your own base to defend. So this one's kind of interesting, and as I talked about the multiple paths through the valley and the lack of slowing down, so that people get to bases faster. One thing you could do, which I think I would like to see, is the area that is commonly, you know, we talked about the mouse that can't cross, or any tank really, that crossing area, if you add a lot of cover, like hills and things between that, and then obviously you have it on raised ground, so it's no longer a slope, I would like to, you know, maybe see both bases move to those positions. So we're talking about like A6 in the north and K6 in the south. This would allow people to get to the city quickly or get to the valley quickly. I think that would be far more interesting than when their current spawn is. If you don't decide to do that, you could still add houses and hills and things like that to cover the B and J lines to the city. But I would like to see the bases moved. I think that would be far more interesting positionally for Lakeville. So the final thing is just a real quick thing. I think it would be useful to have at least 2 lanes in the middle rather than the one single lane. So, you know, you can just eat away a bit more of that mountain and then just allow people to push 1 of 2 lanes and things like that. I think that would be a little bit more interesting than having the one static lane that we have right now. Just to add a little bit more competition for the middle and also add some more threats to tank destroyers that want to sit and camp all game at their base. They could, you know, if it's easier for a medium or a heavy tank to push through the middle line, they have to worry about themselves rather than punishing, you know, anyone who tries to be aggressive in the city. So that's all I have for Lakeville, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope, you know, it maybe got you thinking about the map. You know, you may not agree with what I said about it, and if you don't, if you really love the map, you think it's perfect as is, like I think Quickie Baby thought it was great, so, or if you agree with myself or Slava, you know, let me know in the comments. What would you do to the map if you were to change it, or if you were going to keep it the same? Let me know why you think it should be kept the same. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.